Hey everybody, welcome to Far Out Dudes.
It's another week and we got another far out conversation for you.
I'm one of your hosts, Paul.
I'm Joseph.
And I'm Jacob, behind the camera.
Behind the scenes, Jacob.
Who doesn't want to be seen?
Because he's
Behind
Jacob
the
not to
scenes.
be seen.
He said, I didn't wash my hair this morning, so.
Oh yeah. That's one of the reasons he doesn't want to be seen on the camera.
Yep.
So this week with the Far Out
Yes.
conversation, that's all you, Joseph.
It's all me.
What do we got? What do we got this week for our viewers, our many viewers that have subscribed to us? Thank you all.
I have brought to your attention the Cleveland torso killings, or also known as the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. And
Mad Butcher.
the Mad Butcher, yeah, because the stuff he did
Mad Butchery.
is very butchery.
What are we talking about today?
The Cleveland torso murderer, or the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. I hope you don't go crazy with those.
I'm not.
Okay, so this happened in the 30s. What's that? The Depression area.
The Depression area?
The era.
Great Depression era.
Era.
Great Depression era.
So the first victim, first identified victim, was September 23rd, 1935. Two schoolboys were tossing a softball back and forth on the top of Jackass Hill. And yes, it is called Jackass Hill.
Oh,
I
okay.
had to double check.
Jackass
What
Hill,
hill?
everybody.
Jackass Hill. The ball apparently ended up rolling down the gully into Kingsbury Run. One of the boys went down to get the ball, looked around, and froze. He ran back uphill, catching his friend, and says,
Catching his friend,
and says, there's a dead man in the bushes with no head.
How old were these kids again?
It doesn't say.
They were like 8.
There's
a dead man in the bushes.
They were school kids. However, kids talked in the 30s. Probably like this because they were all broken
And they
didn't
were
have adequate
and they all
nutrition.
smoked at like 12 years old, so they're like, yeah, no.
Like that one,
The car. There's a dead man in the bushes over there.
no, that one character from
8 years
Disney
old.
movies
There's a
that-
dead man in the bushes.
No.
Hey, there's some sucker that got killed over there. Hey, have you?
What?
Hey, Joey.
They sound like
Hey, Joey, have you seen the dead man in the
These-
bushes?
this-
Hey, go get a stick so we can poke him. Yeah. Don't tell
These
the
are
teacher.
kids in the-
Don't tell the
kids in the
teacher.
30s in Cleveland, not
Yeah,
New York.
we're kids in the.
So, anyways, the police came and searched the area, and they found the naked body. They also found.
Hey, Joey.
They also
the body's
found
naked, Joey.
a second body.
Dude died with the boner. Look at him.
Actually, they also found a second body, but both were decapitated and emasculated. They found both heads of the men buried in the dirt. The only reason they found them was there was just enough hair sticking out of the ground for the police to find them. The first victim is Edward Andrassy. And it says that Andrassy had been arrested many times for drunkenness, brawling, and carrying a concealed weapon. He was known to hunt the rougher areas around Kingsbury Run and did not have a steady job. So the autopsy report stated that his head was decapitated, obviously, in the mid-cervical region with a fracture of the mid-cervical vertebrae. Now, you have some medical background. Where is that located?
What? Say that again. So
Cervical.
the cervical vertebrae is your
the
neck.
mid-cervical region with the
Yes.
fracture.
Your neck. It's
Okay,
the back of
so
your neck,
he just like,
yeah. What was it, from the front or the back?
well, what
does it
they
say?
said, the coroner also noted that Andrassy had rope burned around his wrists.
Oh, snap.
The cause of Andrassy's death was decapitation, obviously. Edward Andrassy's death was ruled a homicide, obviously.
Okay.
And so what you're going to come to find out is a lot of these victims were decapitated while they were still alive.
Oh, snap.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang.
This gentleman was Mr. Edward. This one was an unidentified man. The second body, like I said, wasn't identified. They were both emasculated and decapitated, obviously, by these pictures.
They did some bad mutilation of his face over there. Good lord.
Well, that's how they found him.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Now, the only reason they were able to identify Mr. Edward was because of his criminal past and some fingerprints.
Uh-huh.
And the male body that was never identified had a chemical agent on him that turned his skin red and leathery.
Ooh.
Keep note of that.
Okay.
Now I say
Noted.
first identified because the year prior, on September 25th, 1934, the Lady of the Lake, I say Lady of the Lake, but a torso washed ashore at Lake Erie. Ooh. I say torso also, but it was just a buttocks and legs.
Oh, snap.
They connected the body to the ones we just went over due to the red substance found on the body that turned it red and leathery.
Ooh.
Most of the victims come from Kingsbury Run, as I said. It's a hobo town. The reason he does this is because no one knows these people. Okay, they have no family members, and no one will miss them because there's a lot of hobos coming like on the rails because it's a big hub.
Well,
area.
like I guess in the 1930s there wasn't a lot of no one. Like in today's age, everybody's connected by phone, cell phone, internet. You can get a hold of somebody very quickly. 1930s, if somebody moves to another town, the only thing you can do is wait for them to say, "Hey, I'm over here. Send me a letter or anything." But if there's no connection,
and it takes
then,
like
boom.
2 weeks to get to them.
Yeah. So if you decide you're going to Hobo Town in Cleveland, the likely chance that no one is going to know where you're at that point in time is probably very slim.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're coming
very high.
They're coming on the railroad to try to find work too. So they're going from here to there every week.
Yeah.
At this point, Eliot Ness. Does anybody know who Eliot Ness is?
No, but
I'm looking at my notes.
But I can Google Eliot Ness.
Well,
Hey, is that trans woman?
no.
Trans
Eliot
man,
Ness
I mean,
is the gentleman who took down Al Capone and wrote the book, The Untouchables.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
So he got involved, and he held the reason he got involved is because after all that, he gained all this publicity and everything. But he held the position of public safety director, which was over the police department and some of like the fire department.
Uh-huh.
And after a couple months, the police chief put Peter Merlo.
Let me see. What's the name?
Last name MerYlo. I forgot how it's pronounced, but
Merlo.
In charge of the investigation. You know, he had a college education. He was respected inside.
So wait. I want
the
to make sure I'm
police
following
department.
this properly. You're
Yes.
saying the guy who helped catch Al Capone is helping with this investigation,
Correct.
and now Peter.
He's like the top guy,
Oh, okay.
but the actual lead investigator who the police chief put in charge was Peter Merlo.
Oh, okay.
So you have
Okay. So you have a lead investigator, and you
Eliot
have
Notes,
boy.
who's like the top guy.
The top guy.
Yeah.
So the second victim was only like like just the lower half of the body,
So they had
from like the waist down.
They had victim 1 and 2, which is like the Edward and Josie guy.
Okay.
And
Victim 3
so
was a
this
woman.
this victim 3, who was technically the first victim because it happened a few months prior
Oh, and they
'Cause they
connected it
found-
because of the red
because of the
chemical
the
that caused the leathering of the skin.
red and leather stuff. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So they
Oh,
named her patient or like
Victim.
victim 0
victim 0.
instead of
like
like
patient
3
0.
because she was one of the first ones.
She was
the next found victim is Florence Pelleo's body was discovered dismembered
and had been wrapped in paper and packed into half-bushel baskets. However, her head was never discovered. Florence was approximately 43 years old and weighed about 150 pounds. The autopsy report states that her cause of death was a slit throat, but it was questioned if it was a homicide because the head was never discovered. So she may have suicided herself and hit her own head.
It's very.
Hey, Joey, look. We can't find the head, but what do you think? You think somebody killed her? You think she chopped off her own head?
I just gotta say this, little Johnny. Why do we keep coming across these dead bodies and why keep getting involved in
Hey,
these
Joey, little Johnny.
serial killer?
Why is it that we always end up with it? Yeah, you're right. Why do we keep running into these bodies, Joey?
I'm
What do you
not
think?
so sure. I
Who keeps
definitely
on
didn't
leading
kill
us to these dead bodies?
I definitely didn't
What?
kill him.
Yeah, but that's so their first thought is we can't really rule this a homicide because we can't find the head. Or was it more of we can't say that it's related to the other one because we can't find the head?
No, it says the autopsy report states that her head, the cause of death was obviously a slit throat, but it was questioned if it was a homicide because the head was never discovered. They were investigating, and at this time, that summertime in 1936, there were 3 more victims. The first was called the Tattoo Man. The autopsy report that the body was drained of blood, as well as his head being severed while the victim was still alive.
Oh, jeez.
There's John Doe 3. The victim was dismembered while still alive. His head was recovered. However, the advanced state of decay of the body made it impossible to get any fingerprints, and the head would have been decomposed and unrecognizable by that point.
What was
searches through the missing persons reports were unsuccessful.
What was the why did my mind go blank on that? In England, what was the main killer back
Jack
in
the Ripper?
Yeah, Jack the Ripper. Didn't he do things like that too? Like as
Well,
far as
it
like
was
draining
all-
blood from the body.
It was all
and-
women. No, he like cut up their
He was doing more like surgical type.
sexual organs.
Yeah. Okay.
And the third guy, John Doe 4, this one's 2 halves of the male torso and lower legs were found. The coroner notes that the body was severed between the 3rd and 4th vertical vertebrae, as well as between the 3rd and 4th lumbar vertebrae. The fire rescue squad dragged the water in the creek in Kingsbury Run, attempted to find more body parts, but they didn't. The head was never found, nor the body identified. The victim's kidney and stomach were cut out, and he was also emasculated. The coroner declared the probable cause of death was decapitation.
So now that's 9 dead bodies.
I lost count, but yeah.
So do they all have this red chemical on them that has caused?
No, only that the first, technically the 3rd victim,
Yeah.
and then the one that washed up, victim 0.
So I'm guessing it's most
As of now.
what's connecting most of them is because it's in the same general area within a year, and their heads are chopped off.
It's the same stuff over and over again.
And cracked spines, the necks being broken. This last one, they had their lumbar spine, which is your lower back, broken. Man, who's it like? Are they coming at him with the sledgehammer or something?
One of those, rolling pizza cutters.
Yeah.
Just goes.
Is that, in the 1930s, they had those.
Yeah.
Man.
He made what people don't understand is how that came to be was because they found that later on, like the 40s.
Yeah.
And one of the guys started a pizza joint. And was like, "Hey, that slicer was pretty good." So he's like, "Let me slice my pizza." So, in order to, we're gonna get back to the story now.
Oh, okay.
Does that sound
Yeah,
good?
let's
Okay.
get back to the story.
In order to help identify the tattoo man and other victims,
Spooky voice.
cue spooky music. In order to help identify the tattoo man and other victims, they made these casts of their faces.
Wait, so those are casts of the victims' faces?
In order to help identify them, they put these made casts of them, and they put these on display in the Great Lakes Exposition. Do you know what the Great Lakes Exposition was?
I would say it's kind of like a expedition thing where people bring
Exposition.
their exposition where they bring their new things to sell and stuff.
Close.
Not like a fair.
Yes, it is a World's Fair.
Oh, the World's Fair.
It's like a World's Fair, and what this is for is to bring people in, build reputation with the city and get people, business coming. And they bring these dead people heads for people to help identify them.
They're like, hey, has anybody seen this? By the way, this could be you.
Hey, here's some great invention. Also,
Hey,
go
Jack.
look at those heads, see if you know who it is. But it's 1938, 3 years after everything started, and Eliot Ness had a person of interest. He's a surgeon named Francis Sweeney who lived his entire life in Kingsbury Run. And in 1933, his wife took him to court saying he drinks a lot, he's abusive to their 2 sons, he's in his practice slide, and he would disappear days on end and no one knew where he was. He even had a couple insanity hearings years prior to everything, and the last one being January of 1934, just a few months before the first victim was found. And Peter Merlo had a suspicion of the suspect. The suspect was a railroad worker, since it was a big hub and he could just go in and out real quick. But there was no evidence. There was no fingerprints, no tools, no knives. There was nothing besides the bodies. John Doe 4's body was discovered August 16th, 1938, on the lakefront in plain view of Safety Director Eliot Ness's office with Jane Doe 4. Similar to the other victims, the head was severed from the body, and the victim today still remains unidentified. The head was disarticulated at the level of the third internal vertebrae and had a knife mark on the dorsum of the second and third cervical vertebrae. Extremities at all the major points were all the disarticulated as well. The coroner ruled the cause of death was undetermined, though he thought it was probably a homicide.
Who is these who are these coroners? Like what is
It seemed what I'm getting from all this, it seems like coroners have just been really bad at their jobs throughout history.
I don't think that this was a murder, even though the head's chopped off and this guy used precision skills in chopping this head off.
Yeah. But the point of that was the killer knew what was going on and laid these bodies out right in front of where Eliot Ness is. Like, hey, come catch me. Like, you're an asshole. I know exactly what I'm doing. Good luck catching me.
Kind of like basically toying with them.
Yeah. He even sent a postcard in.
Really? Kind of like the serial killer.
To-
I mean, like the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
Like sending in letters.
He was the OG, though.
Oh.
The OG, come and find me.
The first
Because it was
OG.
a postcard.
Yeah.
So Ness personally got involved now. And he conducted raids into the hobo shanties. And eventually, he burned down Kingsbury Run.
Accidentally or
No,
purposely?
he purposefully went in there. He set the whole thing on fire. Burned everyone's houses, the little shanties down. And his reasoning for burning down the shanty town was to catalog fingerprints to easily identify any new victims. And stated that it was also done to get possible victims out of the area in an attempt to stop the murders. And all the craziness and everything that was going on, the murders actually did stop. No one else was murdered.
Really?
And there were no like new discoveries that were, any crazy bodies that were discovered. So the official number of murders attributed to the Cleveland torso killer is 12.
12.
Although recent research, I don't know how recent it is, but has shown that there could be as many as 20 because those were just the bodies that they found.
So they all stopped once the little hobo town was burnt down?
That they know of. And let me tell you why. That surgeon moved away after the fire and got a job as like a prison doctor and killed 2 more people. So I was like, okay, maybe it was him.
I'm going to go with the surgeon.
He moved to Pennsylvania and
I don't know.
killed them.
Did anybody ever find his penis collection?
No. That's when like he probably ate him as hot
That's a lot
dogs.
of.
Real quick, the investigator Peter Merlo, you know how he meant? He said it was like, oh, it's a railroad worker. We actually went undercover and went on the railroad and talked to people like, hey, do you know of this Cleveland torso killer? And people were like, yeah, we've heard of him, but he never found much.
Never found
at all.
anything. It had to have been the surgeon.
So that's why people were thinking, or at least Elliot was
so
like,
wait,
it's probably the surgeon.
So the surgeon
who was
obviously
cutting people up.
Yeah, he obviously went into a prison and killed more people. Is that they actually put him away then, or?
Well, after that, yeah, he got caught and got
Okay.
put to prison and everything.
I'm gonna say it was a surgeon guy.
I just want to round it all up that
Yeah.
there were no, there's no evidence. Well, we got the 2 suspects. Well, really the one,
Yeah.
but
It's got to be the one.
there was no anything. It's just completely unknown. The victims are unknown besides the maybe 2 of them,
Yeah.
but the rest of them are just random people who got killed.
Well, I mean, one of the victims, you only saw the lower half of the body. You didn't even know where the other half is.
Yeah, her
They cooked
body.
them. I think this surgeon was helping I think this was a, what do you call it when people want to die and you help them die? Euthanasia. So he was probably, back then, there was a lot of people in the Great Depression. They had depression. And they needed to feed little Joeys and little Johnnies. And they're like, hey, I need you just to kill me. Feed my penis to little Johnny.
Make the whole body, he feeds the penis to them.
The half torso one?
The one that has like probably the least amount of nutrition in it. Just before skin, though.
And skull,
Just before skin.
and skull soup.
No, because they found the head. Well, I guess not for all of them, but
Yeah.
still.
And the other
That's
one.
nuts.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. It's kind of crazy.
But that's the Cleveland torso kid. If you want to do more research into it, there's a lot more details. It was mainly about like how the bodies were mutilated.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far into it. But yeah, if you want to read about how Mr. Eliot kind of tarnished his status there and went in and burned down an entire little shanty town.
You know what?
Because
if I
got
can't
pissed
find
off, the killer was taunting him.
if I can't
do
find
that.
a killer, I'm burning the whole shanty town
You're
down.
getting no more victims.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment for the sticker so we can get in contact with you and maybe send you one or two.
And leave a voice message on Spotify. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your neighbors, and share with all the shanty town over there.
Try not to Cleveland torso anybody.